Hey, we're supposed to be a team.
Black Ops 6 is currently shaping up to be probably the best Call of Duty game that has released since Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. And as the end of the Weekend 1 beta comes to a close, I just wanted to put together a short little, I guess, kind of feedback and, thoughts video talking about my experience with the game so far in anticipation for Weekend 2 starting early next week, or rather into this weekend. I do have a lot that I kind of want to cover, so I'm going to try to just beeline through a lot of my points, starting with the good, going through to the bad, and then ending off with just a couple of the more ugly side of things that I think really need to get changed with the game, specifically in terms of the multiplayer. When it comes to zombies, I'll attempt to save that for another time. Just to quickly touch on the campaign, I'm heavily anticipating it. I am pretty excited to see Adler and the little sort of interim story that is happening between this point and the future missions in Black Ops 2. But with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and quickly talk about some of the stuff that's been going on with the Black Ops 6 multiplayer. So, one of the first things that I remember being heavily sort of skeptical about when first hearing about Black Ops 6 and Treyarch being pulled over to the IW engine, I was very concerned that Black Ops 6 was not going to feel much like a Black Ops game anymore. With the previous experience of the IW engine being both Modern Warfare 1 and 2, as well as Vanguard at the time, it didn't give me much hope considering that, Sledgehammer also used the IW engine for Vanguard, and it basically was just a Modern Warfare 2019 with World War II aesthetics. So I was heavily skeptical about the fact that Treyarch would be using the IW engine to make their next Black Ops game. But to my relief and to my genuine surprise, I am very happy to say that upon my first play of the game, even just loading into the training course for the first time, it really did feel like a Black Ops game. And even as far as like some of the graphics and a lot of the animations, it also looks like a Black Ops game as well. I was so happy to just kind of go through and start messing around with a lot of the animations and the overall feel of the game, trying out Omni movement for the first time. And I was thoroughly impressed with the feel of the game. Yeah, there we go. There's the auto attack sprint. Okay, cool. This is so, like, strangely enough, it feels like the sprinting is, like, normal sprinting is fairly slow. The Makarov. The game honestly looks really nice. It does feel Black Ops-y. I do like it. Even though it's running on the IW engine, it does feel pretty close to a Treyarch game, I think. Things are smooth. It doesn't feel like it's too realistic. Treyarch always did like keeping things a lot more like plasticky, a little bit faker. They don't lean too much into the realism in terms of feeling like always kind of thumping when you run and the look and feel of the weapons. On top of the movement feel of the game, I think the way the actual game looks, as well as the weapon models and some of the customization with the weapons coming from the Vault Edition, all look great. The Mastercraft's very impressive. I really, really liked it. And overall, I was just thoroughly impressed with this being Treyarch's first foray into using a different engine to build their game, while keeping a lot of the Treyarch isms that do make a Black Ops that I thoroughly love, enjoy, and look forward to every time a new Treyarch game is coming up for release. Some of the other things in regards to the game that I do want to praise Treyarch and the team for kind of making in regards to the multiplayer specifically is taking the gunsmith system that Infinity Ward introduced and fully simplifying it back into a bit of a marriage between the classic create a class system for attachments as well as the modern gunsmith system. Taking everything in terms of the attachments and making 95% of them just pure pros and substantial pros at that. And even if they're more moderate, they're sharing pros between different attachments. For example, a lot of the pistol grips on a lot of the weapons in the game are either strict massive ADS speed improvement, strict sprint to fire speed improvement, or a moderate improvement to both. To me, these help to simplify the gunsmith system as it has been getting a little bit overcomplicated and harkening back to the classic attachment system where things were a lot more simplified in terms of just putting on a stock if you want better strafing speed or the quick draw grip if you want a faster ADS speed. On top of some of the creative class additions to this game, the addition of the specialty perk, sort of helping players to further define their specific type of play style by giving them extra bonuses for choosing perks of specific types, I think is a pretty nice incentive. Currently, as it stands, I don't really see too much of a balancing issue with them, aside from strategist being a little bit underpowered and not as enticing to use. Sure, having some extra score for taking out some objectives and enemy equipment could be helpful, but in the grand scheme of things, especially with something that we'll talk about later in the bad section in regards to score streaks, I think the strategist type of perk system for the specialty is a little bit underpowered compared to both recon and enforcer. Also, the wildcards coming back obviously is amazing. And I've noticed as well, playing throughout some of the beta so far, a lot of the medals that I've been getting also have very strangely like specific kind of earn criteria, which is not bad by any means. I really thoroughly enjoy it. The turn-on medal, as an example, is really funny just because it specifically highlights when an enemy fires and hits you first, but you turn around and kill them instead. Very fantastic. Wall bangs also have a medal now, as well as everything regards to the omni movement, specific action shots, and various things like that. Just helps to really kind of get a lot of the tone and kind of action movie feel down that Treyarch seemingly was very specifically going for with this game. I do have a lot more things that I could probably say good about the game, but to avoid kind of wasting a little bit more time, if I haven't mentioned it so far, it's because I have enjoyed it because it's been in previous Call of Duty games or previous Treyarch games up to now, and it's returning, and it's obviously just great to have it back. But in regards to providing feedback for the beta at this point, I do want to get into a little bit of the criticisms that I have, and I'm going to try to be as constructive as possible here because I genuinely do want the game to succeed. I do want to enjoy every part of this game as much as I can. The campaign, as I said, I'm fully anticipating. The multiplayer, I do want to play and kind of enjoy because I've been really, really liking what I'm seeing and feeling so far, aside from the criticisms that I do want to give. And as much as I do have a lot of stuff to say about zombies, which again I'll probably save for another video, I am kind of looking forward to it because I actually did enjoy Cold War, contrary to popular opinion now, especially with a lot of the community outrage after Liberty Falls. But let's go ahead and get into some of the bad criticisms that I want to outline here specifically for the multiplayer. One of the first things that I did notice when I was going through a lot of the menus, it seems like a lot of the score streak costs were a little too high. And I feel like Treyarch is starting to become the dev team that is really hating on the score streak system for Call of Duty in general, which I don't understand why that's the case. Because Call of Duty, I feel, has always been popular because of the score streak rewards that players can get. And not only just getting them in general, but the fact that they can absolutely just wreck the other team. That was part of what made Call of Duty so fun, even if it incentivized playing for your life rather than the objective. But having something like the UAV cost 675 score is a little outrageous when you consider the fact that previous UAVs were 3 kill streaks or 450 score by comparison, and now I think the 450 is just a scout pulse, which is equivalent to a personal UAV for only 15 seconds rather than 30. It's a little insane, especially considering that a lot of the score streak score requirements seem a little, like, not counterintuitive, but just don't really make sense. Specifically, when looking at the Hellstorm missile and the Watchdog helo, having the Hellstorm cost more than a helo, I don't think in any Call of Duty game you would have been able to look at that and see that as correct or accurate, or just, you would imagine that higher score requirements for streaks would make them a lot more lethal relative to the score that they are required in order to earn. But in most cases, I don't think people are getting more than 4 kills with a Hellstorm missile unless they just get really lucky with enemy placement, right place, wrong time. And the Watchdog helo, I mean, all choppers, player controlled or not, usually are a lot more helpful than just a score streak that can get a few kills in a single instance. Very strange, and that's just something that I do want to kind of point out to the team, as well as the fact that I understand that there are perks in the game that boost score earn rate, specifically Dispatcher, which is hardline, lowering the streak cost specifically for non-lethals. And I can kind of understand that. I feel like that probably is, a valid sort of use for hardline in this game. But comboing that with Anti-Up from Black Ops 3, which is bankroll in this game, I do understand why Treyarch may feel the need to increase the base prices of the streaks to incentivize using these other perks that are supposed to lower the score streak cost. But at that point, I feel like you're likely making the score streak cost perks like a crutch for players who want to actually earn them and use them. In which case, why not just get rid of them entirely and lower the score streak costs across the board? I don't know. That's just kind of my interpretation here about what's been going on with the streaks and how they're kind of organized with the other perks in the game. And just to kind of touch up and finish off on the streak conversation, if you're going to keep both of the streak cost altering perks in the game, and leave the costs as they are, at the very least, let the players loop streaks in the game. I anticipate that the streaks are likely on a code level already separated between lethal and non-lethal, as that would presumably be how Hardline detects how to lower the score streak costs. I'm not a dev. I can't confirm or deny that or, understand how it actually works. But at the very least, loop streaks, and at the very, very least, allow us to loop the non-lethals. But again, that's just my opinion on the streak situation. Another thing that I particularly noticed as far as playing the game for number of hours after this point across the multiple days is, I'm not sure if it's just me, but it seems like weapon penetration through many of the materials in the game is not only inconsistent but also overtuned in some cases. The skyline balconies on both the roof as well as the interior staircase, I can understand those 100% just for gameplay reasons. You should be able to shoot through those. They do decrease weapon damage considerably, and it's completely fair in that regard. I get it. But on something like Gala, the center building with the curtains, it seems like those curtains are just completely made of paper, and bullets can pass through them with little weapon damage fall off, it seems. And it's practically just visual cover at that point rather than actual cover. I also have noticed on a lot of other maps, I can't get into too many specifics, but it just generally felt like weapon penetration across the board just felt inconsistent. That's not something I anticipate to change, but it is something that I did want to point out. Perhaps it's just me, but to kind of go further on in terms of weapon damage and overall performance, I was thrilled to see high caliber return in the form of a barrel attachment in the game, but that immediately woke me up to the fact that it was very obvious that pretty much all weapons in the game, at least as far as ARs and SMGs are concerned, do not get any headshot damage bonus multipliers without that attachment. And on a technicality, they might, and it's probably like a 1.1 or 1.2, but in practicality for the damage numbers that they deal, that doesn't actually lower the amount of shots it takes to kill. For example, on multiple occasions after using the AK-74, I noticed that getting 4 shots on the head in a row at point blank range is not enough to lower the shots to kill to 3, and I feel like that should definitely be the case regardless if you're using the headshot barrel or not. And I don't know, again, that's just the thing where I feel like if that's in there specifically just to give headshots less lethality without the barrel, I would honestly prefer have the barrel removed and give back headshot multipliers to weapons across the board, just to kind of help, reward headshots and accuracy in that regard. And, not to tack this on as kind of like a first world problem, I suppose, but when it comes to the camo challenges in this game, Treyarch have confirmed that every single weapon in the game is going back to a more classic camo unlock system where allegedly, they didn't give it an exact number, but I'm anticipating pretty much all normal full auto weapons to be requiring 100 headshots before you can get to the technical challenges at the end to unlock the mastery camo afterward. And if headshots are like that and people are stubborn to not playing hardcore, I feel for those people. And obviously they can use the high caliber barrel, but I mean, I'm not anticipating anyone will actively want to use that just specifically for camo unlocks. But, going back to my original point, I don't think that high caliber existing in the game should nullify the ability to deal considerable headshot damage. So, that's just something that I wanted to point out. Along of the lines of things that I believe are just some more minor nitpicks, not like the biggest problems in the world. I did obviously see a bit of a problem in terms of weapon balance, specifically the Gepard PDW, which is the AK-74U looking gun. Obviously, that was the fan favorite throughout the weekend one of the beta, specifically in the higher skill tier lobbies. And it was definitely hard to compete against, mainly because I noticed this after using the MP5 as well. I'm not too sure about the Tanto yet whenever we get our hands on that next weekend, but at least compared to the MP5, the Japard was definitely way, way stronger in terms of damage range. It could carry out its damage to far greater distances than the MP5 could, and if I did have to give like a sort of feel type of sort of criticism to that gun, I think a damage range reduction would probably suffice. Again, we don't have any of like the data to kind of work with that or do anything in terms of understanding the intricate data in regards to a lot of the weapons because advanced stats aren't in the game yet. But if I had to go off on feel, especially after using it just for a little bit, I wasn't using it too much. I do think a range reduction is probably the thing to hit on that gun in order to bring it a bit more in line with something like the MP5. In terms of the secondary weapons, I actually thoroughly enjoyed using both the USP and the Makarov. Both of those weapons were pretty fun. You know, the USP is a little bit more of a high risk, high reward gun, especially at close ranges with a 2-shot kill potential. That was hilarious, and that was also fun. I kind of started considering that my John Wick gun, which was super fun to use, and the Makarov was also fun as well. A bit more of the spammy pistol with slightly lower magazine capacity, but both were fun. The one thing that I can offer criticism about, though, is switching to your secondary in this game is painfully slow. And, you know, that's kind of the theme that I've been hearing a lot about the criticism when it comes to Black Ops 6. A lot of things just feel off, even if they are presumably, you know, on average or in time with a lot of Call of Duty traditional sort of timings. Things like health regen, time to kill, and other things like that. Even if pistol swapping is, you know, something that is more in line with some other Call of Duty games of the past, I think that switching to your pistol should be a tad bit faster, especially switching specifically to a pistol and not another primary with overkill. I haven't used overkill, so I can't speak on the switch time between two primaries, but at the very least, secondary switching I think is a tad too slow and should be sped up. This is also probably a bit of a separate complaint that is entirely subjective depending on audio setups and things like that, but I think it's also just a quirk of the IW engine where it feels like the first-person shooting sounds, as well as getting shot, are way too loud compared to all of the other sounds in the game. And, you know, it kind of forces me to turn down the master volume as a whole to not blow out my ears whenever I'm firing, and that just makes it harder to hear a lot of certain things else in the game, specifically like footsteps. Not that I was ever really actively listening for footsteps in the past anyway, especially considering I use dead silence 99% of the time, but I was just noticing that when I had my headset on, gunshot sounds, specifically coming from myself, were also a little too loud. And this is just a personal gripe that I have specifically with the sniper weapon class, specifically semi-autos. I am of the firm belief that all semi-auto snipers, no matter their function, should not have a one-shot kill damage multiplier to the body. They are semi-automatic, they have a faster fire rate than any bolt action, and they should require precision and marksmanship rather than spamming at the bodies that you see in front of you. I do not think that the Dragunov deserves a one-shot kill area to the body. Maybe out to like 10 or 15 meters for like close range stuff, but beyond that, make it so that the players have to hit the head because, you know, like I said, they have such a faster fire rate compared to any bolt action. So that's just my personal gripe. Obviously, I'm not anticipating that to change, especially considering that I think Infinity Ward started the trend of semi-auto snipers being able to one-shot to the chest, and I think Sledgehammer followed suit. I don't actually remember that, honestly, off the top of my head, but, you know, that's just kind of my thing there. Lastly, a couple of the ugly things that I'm sure are on a lot of people's minds when it comes to the game. These are some of the biggest issues that I had playing the beta so far, and they're the things that, you know, most people kind of anticipate were the actual problems throughout this entire beta. Personally, myself, I don't know if it was just me, but I noticed several crashes at least once a day playing through this game after doing just kind of mundane things. I wasn't doing anything too crazy. I wasn't ankle breaking people or trying to dive out of the map or do anything crazy. I'm literally just running around playing the game, and the game would just crash. I can't offer any specifics as to what I may have been doing that was out of the ordinary. The only sort of instance that I do specifically remember was as the game was trying to load the winner's circle, it crashed. So I mean, that's just one instance that I kind of remember, but you know, a couple of other crashes just happened while I'm trying to play the objective or run out of my spawn and things like that. Just normal kind of mundane things that you're doing in every game. Um, Another thing that I kind of have, and it may just be like still kind of unfamiliarity with the maps, but I feel like a lot of them so far are just kind of imbalanced in certain ways. Like it's strange because I think Skyline is the best map that we have so far, and it is fairly balanced overall, even if the pool side of the map is a little hard and goofy to navigate sometimes, especially considering that the underground area is kind of like the quote-unquote middle lane, I suppose, unless you want to take the overhead balcony hallway between both of the top room and the rooftop on the other side of the house. But I think Scud is actually one of the better maps out of the selection that we have so far. I know that's probably a bit of a hot take compared to a lot of people, but I think Scud is honestly just a little bit of an easier map to look at in terms of geometry, even if the color palette is a little bit more to be desired. But obviously, I think the biggest problem with that map is the two power positions on the radar array itself as compared to the one that is in the bunker area on the opposite side of the map. Derelict is just very busy. It makes it hard and tiring to kind of look and play around. You know, I could probably end up playing through that map, you know, once or a couple times a day, thoroughly. But after multiple times, it does kind of get tiring to play, especially with people being able to jump on the multitude of train car roofs throughout the entire thing. Which another specific problem that I have with Derelict in Domination, that C flag spawn, dude, it is just so sticky. The team that is stuck on the C flag, they will continuously and repeatedly spawn all the way in the back, far away behind the flag, in the darkest, dankest corner of shrubbery behind the abandoned tank cars. It's ridiculous, but I'll talk more about the spawns in a moment. Um, and as for the face-off maps, I honestly thought that I was going to enjoy Gala more than Pit, just because my first impressions of Pit were the infinity symbol type of layout was a little goofy, and also having verticality on the map as well kind of messed with the flow, I thought. But truth be told, I think I kind of like Pit more than Gala, just because Gala has a lot of easy wall bangable spots, and maybe that was intentional, I'm not sure, but also just a unreasonably amount of snipers on that map as well. Probably because of the long sight lines to the spawns to and from each other. But I honestly say that as far as face-off maps go, you know, the tiny meat grinder maps, they were both pretty all right. I'm not one to play meat grinder maps all that much unless I'm trying to do challenges. But if I'm actually playing Call of Duty, I'm not going to be playing them on that much. I definitely feel like I'm missing a map here, but shoot, I can't remember for the life of me what it actually is. But as far as all the maps go, I do think that they are somewhat imbalanced, kind of like I said. I offered as much kind of feedback as I can on them up to this point. Something that I'm pretty sure the Treyarch devs are aware of and are already fixing allegedly for Weekend 2 is the spawn system. This is something that I kind of feel is probably a bit more ingrained into the engine itself rather than something that Treyarch was able to bring over from their T engine. It's clearly something in regards to the squad spawn system that Infinity Ward developed for Modern Warfare 2019 that is still there, sadly. Treyarch clearly has tried to mess with it in their own ways, but on game modes like TDM and Hardpoint, they're extremely flippy and unpredictable. And on Domination, they are super sticky, kind of like how I mentioned with Derelict on the C flag. And I mean, I can't even tell you what a lot of the other situations that I've had in terms of spawns felt like because they were just all over the place. And it made the entire game very unpredictable. And I'm not sure if that's something that they can hammer out well enough for Weekend 2. And it's something that I can only hope is fixed up for launch. And speaking of things I hope get fixed up for launch is the server netcode. Honestly, I did not have as many issues as I've been seeing a lot of people online kind of been dealing with. A lot of packet bursts from people playing. I don't see the packet burst notification show up on my end, which is crazy. I see it as a complaint that a lot of people deal with, and I've never had it. And overall netcode of just kind of dying around corners. Again, I don't think that's a problem with the packet burst because I'm never getting the indicator for it, but I have noticed on some occasions dying around corners. It wasn't too often, but it's just something to kind of repeat and bear in mind that I'm sure Trek is aware of. Server netcode is always a work in progress for every game, and it's a little confusing how after 20 games now in a row, maybe not in a row for multiplayer, but in multiple games in a row now of releasing annually, that the teams just can't get server netcode down. I'm not sure how the server side of things work for these games, if they're always kind of buying or renting more servers for newer games to always just kind of keep the older games on their own servers and things like that. But, server netcode is always a thing. And just the last thing to tack on to the end here, because it's always a talking point and it's never going to get changed. The skill-based matchmaking in the beta at this point was abysmal. I think a lot of us who are just highly skilled but don't want to take the game too seriously can agree that the skill matching factor in the matchmaking of this beta weekend one was extremely sweaty. I don't think it was actually because the intensity was turned up specifically, like a lot. It definitely is turned up, obviously, because that's how Call of Duty Modern works, but I think it's also just because that this was weekend one. It was limited to specifically people who pre-ordered or who went out of their way to get a beta code. And, obviously that is going to be filled with only the most dedicated of players. And as far as a lot of the casuals who aren't engaging in online discourse or online anything in regards to talking about the game on forums, in comments, or on Twitter and things like that, they're the ones that just pre-order the game because they like the game and they are low skilled enough to be able to play the game casually and not have to deal with Jeopard warfare for 8 hours a day every day. So this video has already gone on a little bit longer than anticipated, so I'm going to go ahead and end it here by just reiterating that I honestly have been enjoying the Black Ops 6 beta so far. I do obviously have my criticisms and hopes for certain change that I hope that helps to kind of push a lot of these ideas towards Treyarch, and hopefully that they kind of see a lot of the similar sentiments that I'm sharing, hopefully. Overall, like I did say, thoroughly enjoying things. A lot of the things that they have been adding to the game feel super good in terms of the Omni movement, a lot of the created class changes, and just a lot of the Black Ops isms that are coming with a new Black Ops title on a new engine that the team is unfamiliar with. Just a lot more of, I guess, kind of the nitpicky type of things that I mentioned in terms of bad that I do hope get changed, because I don't particularly understand why some of these changes were made. And, some games have just kind of done these ideas a little bit better, but that's neither here or there. It's still a beta. Things can change, and if they don't, then, we'll just probably have to end up dealing with it for the year. But yeah, as far as things go, I think we'll go ahead and end it here. So anticipating the fact that if someone at Treyarch is watching this, thank you so much for listening to just a bit of a fanboy kind of ramble all the way through. I'm just trying to help push the game to be the best it can be in terms of the multiplayer at this point. Like I said, I do have some stuff in regards to zombies that I probably will make a separate video on later. I'm fully anticipating the campaign, and I think you all have made a very fantastic game here, one of the best that we have gotten in the past 5 years. So big ups to you on that, and I am giving you full props and full support for the coming seasons after launch. So with that out of the way, thank you all so very much for listening, and I will see you all in my next video. Peace out, everybody.